Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So there's a bunch of big stories breaking today. We're going to try to cover them this evening, including a Supreme Court decision to prevent so-called vote harvesting, which is really a crooked process used by left-wing groups to stuff ballots and rig elections. The Supreme Court sided with Arizona on restricting voter harvesting, and we have Arizona Governor Doug Ducey in a few moments to talk about ending voter harvesting, as well as his state's spiffy new flat tax. Both very important developments. By the way, folks, right on schedule, that great election reformer Joe Biden opposes the Supreme Court decision, thereby throwing his weight behind crooked vote harvesting. You got to believe it. It's wonderful. But I want to begin with another story. The U.S. has apparently won international backing for a global minimum tax. Officials from 130 countries, including the G20, has apparently signed on. Isn't this wonderful? Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calls it, quote, a historic day for economic diplomacy. Well, I think it's historic, all right. It's a historic tax hike on American companies. And it's historic because we're giving up our tax sovereignty to foreigners, to multilateral organizations. Seems like just yesterday, I was working for a guy who believed in America first, who told us several times in the Oval Office that only Americans could set American tax policy. But alas, under the new regime, sovereignty seems to mean nothing. People-pleasing globalists is more important. Remember the Boston Tea Party, taxation without representation? It helped trigger what may be the greatest revolution in world history. Remember that? Joe Biden and Janet Yellen would have opposed it, right? So where's Tom Jefferson now that we need him? I mean, I'd love a Trump replay, but Jefferson on top of that would be very, very cool. Now, nearly all the companies eligible for this 15% rate are U.S. companies. So sure, all the 130 companies around the world, what do they care? Except my pals in Ireland who said no. Gotta love that. Good for them. 12.5% corporate tax rate. They hopefully won't get involved in any minimum tax nonsense. The Irish are the only supply-siders in Europe, and they have the best economic growth performance to prove it. Also, kudos to Hungary, to Estonia, and a couple of other holdouts. Now, we don't know all the details about this so-called global minimum tax, but it may turn out to be much worse than some minimum tax. For example, earlier discussions in the G7 and the G20 and the OECD discussed a windfall profits tax, whereby companies with a 10% or higher profit margin, which ain't that great, could nonetheless be subjected to a 20% or higher excess profits tax. This is nuts. Profits are the mother's milk of stocks. Profits are the lifeblood of economies. Profits lead to new inventions and innovation and risk-taking and new investments in modern plants and technology equipment. All this leads to better tools, better training, and more information for the modern workforce. It not only provides greater job opportunities, but profits make the new worker more productive, and productivity is one of the essentials of economic growth. With productivity up, real wages go up. With productivity, blue-collar, middle-income family incomes go up. That is what happened during the Trump years. So, layering new taxes on profits is incredibly dumb, even by today's standards. I mean, I've done this on both sides of the pond. It is just dumb. These are crazy people. And with it all is an attack on America, because you know what? We will pay the freight now, won't we? China, they're going to be licking their chops because, you know, they won't play by the rules, and they'll cook the books just like they always do. Russia doesn't have much to worry about because outside of an oil company or two, they don't really have any big companies. As the late Senator John McCain once remarked, the Russian economy is nothing more than a rundown gas station. So yeah, let's hear it for economic diplomacy. I am counting on 50 Republican senators to block this nonsense.